Hello everyone, I'm Harith from Team Singapore, and today I'm going to be discussing how we can best handle this house regrets motions. Let's start off with a simple question. What makes this house regrets motions different from other motions? The key difference between both types of motions is that this house regrets motions are retrospective. This means that the debate is about events that have already happened, as opposed to events that could potentially happen in the future. This means that for this house regrets motions, you cannot have a policy which you might try to use to fiat out harms that the other side might bring up. Another important question to ask will be regarding this house regrets motions that are popular today. The most popular this house regrets motions are usually about social narratives and trends. For example, motions like this house regrets the narrative that true love exists is an excellent example of a popular this house regrets motion that deals with narratives. Note that when dealing with such motions, it is important to heavily characterize what the narrative looks like and who it exerts an effect on. By characterizing who the narrative exerts the most effect on, your side can win the debate by proving that you help the actor who is hurt the most by this narrative. With that said, here are two important tips that everyone should use when handling this house regrets motions. First, do remember to heavily characterize the trend you are talking about by using examples. Given that these motions are retrospective, it is important that teams are aware of the fact that there are powerful examples that enter the mind of the judge the moment they read the motion. For example, if the motion is, this house regrets the deregulation of the financial sector, the immediate example that would jump into the judge's mind would be regarding the 2008 financial crisis and how it was caused by deregulation. Given that this is an example that benefits the proposition, the op team needs to be willing to reframe the judge's thinking by using counter-examples to recharacterize the world. For example, the op team might choose to use counter-examples of large monopolies like Standard Oil and AT&T in the 1960s that benefited off heavy government regulation and new regulation that prevented new competitors from entering the market. The second important tip for this house regrets motions would be that you should always press the counterfactual. There is a common misconception in this house regrets debates that the debate is solely about the narrative or trend being debated. However, an often neglected part of such debates is what the world would have looked like in the absence of such narratives. This is important for both the prop and the op teams. For prop teams who regret the narrative, it is important that they spend substantial time explaining why their comparative of a world without this narrative or trend is a preferable world. For op teams, explaining why a world without this narrative would be even worse can be a useful path to victory. This is because even if prop manages to prove that the narrative has had some harms, the op team can still win the debate by arguing that a world without this narrative would have had even more harms. I'm Harith from Team Singapore, and I really hope you enjoyed this. Thank you, and see you around.